Let me go to this slide, which we have just started yesterday. So we were looking into combined gas and vapor cycles. So this is the first slide, which we have started in our last class. And basically, we have the motto to have power plant cycle, which is very efficient. And we have discussed different options how we can increase the efficiency. And our focus is steam power cycle. That is Rankine cycle. We have seen that by reheat and regeneration, we can increase its efficiency. Then we have seen that, well, if we go for from subcritical cycle to supercritical cycle, we can increase its efficiency. Now we like to analyze why we do not get a good efficiency and at the same time a practically viable cycle. Theoretically, we can draw anything. We can have a Carnot cycle starting from 1000 degrees Celsius to going up to 25 degrees Celsius, but theoretically that is possible. That is only possible theoretically. Practically it is not possible. So practically what I have tried to tell you that there are different limitations when we select a medium or working fluid for the power plant cycle. Like water has got a lot of limitation. First limitation is that if we think of subcritical cycle, then it has got a critical temperature below which we have to operate. And the lowest temperature we can get atmospheric temperature. At that point, the cycle can reject heat. But at that temperature, the steam has a pressure which is much below the atmospheric pressure. So we have to face technical challenge. Though we are we have accommodated that, but this is not a desirable condition. So here we can see that if there is a dream fluid of a technique, of a technology person, of an engineer, so what it could be? That high critical temperature but low critical pressure. That means my cycle could go to very high temperature, but the design of the cycle should not be made very thick section of metallic pipes, etc. If the critical pressure is very high, then outside it will be atmospheric pressure and inside it will be close to critical pressure, so which will be very high. So all the sections, etc., are designed very critical. So that is not desirable. But in case of water, what we can find? That critical pressure is 22 degree, 23 degree, sorry, 22 or 3 megapascal. So that becomes very high pressure, and that is not a good feature for the thermodynamic fluid. Saturation pressure corresponding to atmospheric or sink temperature should be above atmosphere. That is also not true for water. Saturated liquid line is almost vertical. So this is what I was trying to say in our last class, that if this line is vertical, then you see it is almost coinciding with Carnot cycle. And here, at saturated, for heating the subcooled liquid to the saturation pressure, I have to give very little amount of heat or almost no heat at all. So that means all the heat is being added at constant temperature. Similarly, here also the saturated liquid line is almost vertical, as I have told. Saturated vapor line, if it is almost vertical, then starting from saturated saturated vapor, I can go for expansion without any moisture content because this line is vertical. So then what will happen? All the heating will be done at constant temperature. I have not to go for superheat. But that is not available with the commonly available fluid. These features are not possible. Then saturated high value of latent heat. That means I will increase very small degree of temperature, but I will add a very large amount of heat. So that is another feature. And then of course these are rather practical features, that it should be non-toxic, inert, it should not make any kind of reaction, etc. And its cost should be low, it is easily available. Now all these features which I have told are not available in any of the natural or synthetic fluid. So some of the features are available, some of the features are available in another fluid. So then what do we do? One thing is possible, that we combine power plant, two cycles, because some fluid will be good at high temperature zone and some fluid will be good at low temperature zone. Then if we have two cycles combined together, one is at high temperature and one is at low temperature, then we can have a better efficiency. So this is done and the cycle at the high temperature we called topping cycle, and cycle at the low temperature we call bottoming cycle. And if this concept can be carried forward, that why only two cycles? We can have more cycles. We can have three cycles also. That topping cycle, intermediate cycle, and cycle. So we can cover a large range of temperature, and obviously the power plant, total power plant efficiency will go up. Up to this, do you have any question? Anybody? Or any comments to make? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Then let me proceed. Okay. So here I am showing that there are two cycles, combined cycle power plant. And when we call combined cycle power plant, generally this kind of configuration is meant, but there could be other kind of combination also. That means I can, this is a particular combination, it is a series combination. You see, we have got one cycle E1, or it could have been written C1. This is actually engine 1. So it is taking heat from a source which is at a high temperature T1. Q1 amount of heat it is taking, and W1 amount of work it is doing. Q2 amount of heat is being rejected at a temperature T. The other cycle or engine E2, that is picking up exactly Q2 amount of heat from T2, and it is rejecting Q3 amount of heat at T3 while doing W2 amount of work. So if eta 1 is the efficiency of the first cycle, then eta 1 is equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1. And in temperature, suppose this cycle is an ideal cycle, then in terms of temperature we can write, and then T2 by T1 can be obtained as 1 minus eta 1. Similarly, for second cycle, I can write eta 2 is equal to 1 minus Q3 by Q2, and by algebraic manipulation, I can show that T3 by T2 is equal to 1 minus eta 2. Then let us draw this red line. So what I can see, that in this red line, if we see energy interaction, then it is coming from the top Q1, it is going out from the bottom Q3, work done W1 plus W2 that is coming out, and there is no other interaction. And obviously E1 is working in a cycle, E2 is working in a cycle, and this red envelope which encompasses E1 and E2, so that is also working in a cycle. So then this is nothing but another kind of engine or cycle which is taking Q1 amount of heat, rejecting Q3 amount of heat, and work production is W1 plus W2. So here the efficiency of this red envelope or overall efficiency, if I call it eta O, so eta O can be obtained like this. Eta O is equal to 1 minus T3 by T1. And with some algebraic manipulation, one can show that 1 minus eta O, eta overall, is equal to 1 minus eta 1 multiplied by 1 minus eta 2. And if we proceed, if we generalize, then 1 minus eta O is equal to multiplication of 1 minus eta I. I is 1 to n, if there are n number of cycles. So let us take a small example. Let's take eta 1 is equal to 0.5 and eta 2 is equal to 0.5. Then eta overall will be equal to 0.75. So that means if we have this series combination of cycles, then obviously we are gaining in terms of efficiency. Very large gain is there in terms of efficiency. 3 cycles if we give, then we will see that my efficiency is increasing quite a bit. Okay. Now, we have started showing the deficiency or limitation of a single cycle. Now we are showing that if 2 cycles are combined, then it is very good. So from both the point, it is coming, we can come to a conclusion that we can, if possible, we should combine cycles. One working at a high temperature limit, one working at a low temperature limit. This is very beneficial. Now, here I want to have some comments from you, that what do you feel regarding this analysis, and if you have any comments. If not, I will draw your attention to certain points. Anybody like to comment? Anybody like to ask anything?
So effectively, we are increasing the heat addition temperature by this, right? Practically speaking.
Practically, sometimes we have got high heat addition temperature, or it is possible to create high heat addition temperature.
Yeah, because of combined cycle approach. Yeah.
That, because we do not have that kind of cycles. Or we can have a cycle which will effective at very high temperature, but that cycle, the sink temperature should also be higher. So practically, let's say in nuclear power plant, we can go for very high temperature. Even I have told coal combustion, we can go for very high temperature. Solar, by concentration, we can go for very high temperature. But then there should be some cycle to employ it effectively. If one cycle is available at high temperature, very effective, then we should see that what could be another cycle which will take heat, not directly from the heat source, but from the first cycle. Achha.
Yes, sir, understood. But like effectively, like if we see this as a system, all the cycles combined as a system, so like if we do the analysis, heat rejection temperature will always be atmospheric.
Close to atmospheric should be.
And we are and we are managing to increase the heat addition temperature, so that's why efficiency is increasing net.
Yeah. Obviously, see, always it should be our motto to have heat rejection temperature close to atmosphere, but that is not possible always. You understand? Or
Heat
there
transfer
are many
limits.
No, not heat transfer. There are many cycles where we cannot do that. Like, let's say gas turbine cycle. So gas turbine cycle, the exhaust from the turbine comes at a very high temperature. So that's why we do sometimes that waste heat, how we can utilize the waste heat. Or very good example is your car engine, IC engine, internal combustion engine. Internal combustion engine also, it goes without saying, the exhaust temperature is quite high. So if there are very large plant of internal combustion engine, we can combine all those. I mean, we can get a good amount of heat at a good high temperature, and we can think of utilizing it. But in most of the other cases, in cars, etc., that heat is wasted. We cannot come close to your atmospheric temperature. In steam power plant, of course, we can come close to our steam power plant.
Yes, sir. And like in moving things like aircrafts, cars, ships,
Yes,
etc., the
aircraft,
limitation is the weight, basically. So
basically.
we don't have this in power plants, so power plants can be of much higher efficiency.
No, not only weight, but another thing is also there. Suppose you are having your moped. See, the amount of heat that is rejected, that is so small that commercial exploitation of that heat is impractical.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes.
Certain things I like to draw your attention to. First thing, this analysis is whatever very simple analysis I have done, that is applicable for both reversible and irreversible cycle. It does not say anything regarding the reversibility of the cycle. Though I have brought temperature over here, but with Q also I could have done the without bringing temperature. With Q also I could have done the same analysis, and I could have got the same result. Only the assumption here is that whatever heat is rejected by the first engine at the temperature T2, the same heat is accepted by the second engine, the exactly same, there is no loss, and at the same temperature. This is the crux of the point. Otherwise, whether it is reversible or irreversible, it does not matter. But in practical cases, what happens that if somebody rejects a heat and somebody has to pick up that heat, so there should be some sort of a temperature difference. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing, how are you going to do it? You are going to do it with some sort of equipment, maybe heat exchanger. The top engine is rejecting heat, and in the heat exchanger, the bottom engine is picking up some heat. So there is some sort of a delta T. And there is also some amount of heat loss. So these two aspects we have neglected. So obviously, when we will go for practical cycle, practical combination of cycle, so these two factors will come, and the figure of efficiency I have told, so that figure will reduce. But even then I will begin. That is one thing. Another thing, that it is true for series combination. But in many cases, there could be parallel combination also. Because you see, you are getting energy from different sources. Let's say here there is one source and one sink, but we have got energy from different sources. We have got coal, we have got some sort of geothermal or solar energy. So in that cases, parallel combination, series combination, both have to be there. We can have some extra kind of fuel input here, energy input over here. So all these possibilities are there, and accordingly we will get the efficiency. But whenever this series combination is there, we will get a good enhancement in the efficiency. Okay. Now, what are the different possibilities? Different possibilities are binary and ternary vapor cycle. That is binary and ternary vapor cycle. Like I have got two Rankine cycle, one above another. Left side, you can see some sort of a photograph taken from Singles and Bolts. So we have got at the top high temperature mercury as the working fluid, and then mercury pump. It is giving to a boiler where mercury is converted into vapor. and then mercury is going through the turbine, and then it is rejecting heat in a condenser. So this condenser is also the boiler of the lower cycle, and then the cycle is complete. And here in the condenser, whatever heat is coming, so that heat is taken up by water to get converted into steam, and then it goes to the steam turbine and condenser and comes back. So basically there is a mercury cycle at the top which gives heat to the steam cycle, and there is a steam cycle at the bottom. So this is called binary vapor cycle, and this is only some sort of a bookish kind of discussion, because this has been tried but it has not been very successful. Can anybody guess why it is not very successful commercially?
Availability and handling of mercury.
So difficulty of mercury, handling mercury, the challenges of making turbine which will handle mercury vapor, and all these things. Okay, and mercury is also some sort of it is also carcinogenic and toxic. So those problems are there. Very heavy fluid, very costly fluid. So those problems are there. And people have even thought of ternary vapor power cycle, that at the top liquid sodium will be the fluid, in between mercury will be the fluid, and below water will be the fluid. So these are all calculation you can do on pen and paper, but this is not achievable. At least it has not been achieved till date by your any kind of practical system. Then MHD and steam power cycle. What is MHD? What is MHD? Full form of MHD, at least somebody should know, please. Anybody? Achha, MHD is magnetohydrodynamics. So magnetohydrodynamics, what is done? That it comes from the classical theories of electricity. Between two magnetic pole, if there is any motion of a conductor, then in a magnetic field, if there is any motion of a conductor, then we get electricity. Okay, so this is known. Is it known to all of you? Yes. Hello.
Faraday's law. Faraday's law.
So this is Faraday's law. So so then what is done, that we take that, let's say we have got thermal source available. So we heat the air and sometimes with some seeding at a very high temperature. So air becomes then into plasma. That means there are ionization of air, and then that is made to flow through two poles at a very high velocity. So we will have electricity generated, but the exhaust gas which will come out, that is having a high temperature. So obviously from there I can have a Rankine cycle. So this is MHD and steam power cycle. In Russia, a lot of work has been done. Other than Russia, also in other places work has been done, but Russia has done some pioneering research. They have some demonstration plant, etc. But again, it has not been commercially suitable. Then we are coming thermoelectric and steam power cycle. What is thermoelectricity? What is thermoelectricity?
Electron emission due to rise in temperature.
ठीक नहीं हुआ. Actually, there are three effects. Combined way we call them thermoelectric effect. That is Seebeck effect, Peltier effect, and Thomson effect. So, what is Seebeck effect? Anybody remembers? Anybody remembers Seebeck effect? Achha, Seebeck effect is if there are two dissimilar materials metals or alloys. Okay, and they are made into a closed loop. One of the end is at high temperature and another junction. One junction is at high temperature and another junction is at low temperature. Then what will happen? We will have what? We will have EMF induced in that circuit, and this is the basis of temperature measurement with the help of thermocouple. Did I say correctly? It should be known to you. Hello. भाई कोई तो कुछ
Yes sir, yes sir.
Yes sir, yes sir.
कोई तो कुछ comment करो. So this is your Seebeck effect. What is Peltier effect? Peltier effect is same, I mean reverse. So where we have got two junctions and we send current at a particular direction through this circuit, then one junction will be cold and another junction will be heated. I mean, temperature of one junction will reduce and temperature of another junction will go up. So this has particularly got lot of interest, though the effect was known for long, but this has got lot of interest nowadays, particularly for cooling application. We call them as Peltier cooler. And in many cases, even in cars, etc., there are cooler for some sort of a glass. You can have some drink and you can cool it. In your office, you can bring, keep a small electric refrigerator and you can have some cold water, etc. So why this example? Because they do not have any kind of moving component. They are very small. So that's why I am giving this example. And Peltier cooler are used very effectively in different electronic circuit, particularly for remote location, etc. Okay, you do not need any kind of refrigerant, any kind of compressor, no moving component, no noise, no sound. So what you can see that, well, direct current can be obtained if there is a thermoelectric pair and one end is getting heated. So this principle is being utilized, or at least people are talking about this principle. There are demonstrations. Again, the main stumbling block over here is the material. More and more material research is taking place. This thermoelectric material people are developing, and it is becoming more and more viable. So far, it is for remote location, for power generation, etc. But one day, definitely, it will be for common application also. It will be there. Now, these are typical. Sorry, these are typical. Typical example of power cycle, thermoelectric and steam power cycle. So thermoelectric, what is there? That one end of you are heating and there is heat rejection from the other end. That rejected heat can be utilized in a steam power cycle. Okay. Now, what is the, just one more sentence I like to say. I do not want to go for its analysis, etc., because I think commercially they are not very, I mean, from scientific point of view, this is interesting to do this analysis, but commercially they are not very suitable at this point of time. Only one thing I like to tell you, that what is the challenge of material research? This thermoelectric material should be such. So thermoelectric material should be between two bodies who are having different temperature, heat source and heat sink. And another thing, let me tell you, these I mean semiconductors, different kind of semiconductors people are making, and with these semiconductors, this I mean, this thermoelectricity is being exploited. There are many things. In a small lecture, I cannot tell all these things, and I do not want to tell also because steam power plant is our main thing. The thing which I like to mention is that the challenge comes from there, that a thermoelectric material that is connected between between two bodies which are different, which are at different temperature. Now these two bodies should be maintained at different temperature. So the connecting thermoelectric material should have a low thermal conductivity. Otherwise, in no time, there will be good amount of heat transfer directly from the top body to the lower body, that from the high temperature source to the low temperature sink. That we do not do. So the thermoelectric material should have a low conductivity, low thermal conductivity. But at the same time, this is also a current carrying body, and it should not produce lot of resistance. The current EMF it is generated, if to fight the internal resistance that EMF is spent, then our purpose is defeated. So it should have good amount of good amount of electrical conductivity, but low amount of thermal conductivity. So this is what is the main challenge. To get a material like this is a great challenge. But scientists are working, lot of research funding is there, and I mean, already there are materials, and day by day there is improvement on this material. Now, this kind of cycle has got one advantage, that they are very compact. They do not have any kind of moving component, so wear and tear, running, the hazard of running some sort of a moving system is less. But so far, we have to see its success as big system. Then thermionic is slightly different from thermoelectric. So there are materials which, when heated, emits electron. So suppose we have got two metallic electrodes, and in between we have got vacuum or partial vacuum, and one of the electrode is connected to the heat sink, which is heated to a great extent, and then it will emit electron, which will go to the another electron. In between, air resistance is very less, so we will have a current, and the other electrode there will be, of course, heated. So that heat has to be taken up. So that heat can be taken up by a steam power cycle. So this is your thermionic and steam power cycle. Again, moving component, etc. are, so we have got advantage. Then there could be cycles like this, that high temperature fuel cell, thermionic converter power cycle. So all these are possible. Fuel cell has also got a lot of promises, and in different places fuel cells are being used, either as independent or standalone power plant, or it has got lot of potential to get combined with other power plants. Okay, then we can have gas turbine cycle and steam turbine cycle. Gas turbine cycle can work on Brayton cycle. Gas turbine cycle works on Brayton, and steam turbine cycle works on Rankine. Whatever we have discussed, except the last one, that means gas turbines and steam turbine cycle, all are now in research stage and not commercially viable. Okay, in some small system, maybe they have been demonstrated. But the last one, that is the combination of GT and ST cycle, it has been demonstrated in quite some time, and all over the globe, there are many combined power plants on this principle, including our country. Okay, so we will spend some time on the combination of gas turbine and steam turbine cycle. Okay, so this is how a combination of gas turbine and steam turbine cycle looks. So we will have the topping cycle or top cycle as the gas turbine cycle. the fuel, let me talk about the fuel over here. So generally raw coal is not the fuel. Either we have got coal gas, or we can have natural gas. There are some countries which are very rich in natural gas. Unfortunately, our country is not so. So we are having those kind of sources as the source of energy. That either gas or we are having, what is that? Coal gas. Coal gasification, with the from the coal you gasify the coal and then the coal gas you use. Other fuels are also possible. For example, very close to our institute, Holdia is there. In Holdia, there is Holdia Petrochemical, which makes different kind of polymers from petrol. From crude oil based product, which is naphtha, not from petrol. It makes it from naphtha. So in this power plant, naphtha itself is used as the fuel, and we have got combined cycle power plant. So in this power plant means they have got a small power plant to meet their own demand, which is called captive power plant. When an industry does not supply other, but for its own demand have a power plant, it is called a captive power plant. And when there is big power plant to give the service to large community, it is called utility power plant. So Holdia power plant, Holdia Petrochemical has got a captive power plant where naphtha is being used as the fuel, and they have got combined cycle power plant. So then, just a minute. So air is being taken, compressor, and then, as I have told regarding the fuel, let me tell you another thing, that natural gas or coal gas, whatever I have told, those are combustion based. By combustion, they give the energy. But there could be non-combustion based heat source also. What are the non-combustion based heat source? Can you name a few?
Nuclear.
Hello?
Nuclear.
Nuclear could be one. So nuclear is a very good option, but nuclear has got other advantage. What is the other advantage? When it is non-combustion based source, then the chemical properties of the working fluid is not changing. Why we have to give certain thing as exhaust to the atmosphere? Because the chemical properties are changing, and then we have to take fresh air every time. So our cycle, gas turbine cycle, IC engine cycle, etc., they are open cycle, they are not closed cycle. So if a non-combustion type of source is used, then the advantage is that you can have a closed cycle, because physical property is changing only, no chemical property is changing due to heat addition. So please, either note it or keep it in mind that nuclear is a very good option. And then those kind of nuclear reactors are called gas-cooled nuclear reactor. So basically, here is the nuclear reactor core through which gas will be circulated, and then this gas is getting heated, core is getting cooled, and then that gas is going to the turbine. Here you are extracting some heat from the gas, and then it is again going to the compressor. And this gas is nothing, what is used in nuclear reactor is helium. Now, unfortunately, in our country, we do not have helium reserve. So our country has never thought of gas-cooled reactor, the plan for gas-cooled or program for gas-cooled reactor. In our country, all are liquid-cooled reactor, either water or heavy water or so either water or heavy water or liquid metal. So in our country, it is always liquid cooled reactor. It is never gas cooled reactor. But in other country, gas cooled reactors are there, and helium is used as the coolant. So that is one thing. Another possibility is that to use the solar energy. And solar energy also, people have thought different kind of application. At least, I mean, this is a viable option that if solar concentrators are there, so it is possible. So you see, then below there is a steam power cycle. Very simple steam power cycle is shown, and in between there is something which we can call a heat exchanger, but it has got a typical name. We will, use that name number of times. It is called HRSG. Anybody knows the full form of HRSG? Okay, so HRSG means heat recovery steam generator. Basically, whatever function is done by a boiler, this HRSG is also performing the same function. Only thing is that in most of the HRSG, we will not have any flame, any combustion. And when there is no combustion, no flame, etc., heat transfer will be not due to radiation, but due to convection. So basically, it is that kind of a heat exchanger. We will spend time on HRSG. So though it is serving all the purpose of a boiler, it is not called a boiler. It is called a steam generator, and from waste heat, it is generating steam. So this is called a heat recovery steam generator. Up to this, is it clear? Anybody has got any question to ask? If not, I will proceed.
Clear, sir.
Okay. So if we have two cycles, so these two cycles will look like this. Basically, it is a temperature entropy diagram and a little bit schematic, because you see all the heat is coming from the Brayton cycle to the from the exhaust of the Brayton cycle to the Rankine cycle, and heat is coming from this part of the Brayton cycle, 4 to 5. After that, it is exhaust. So combustion-based Brayton cycle, you have to have the gas left to the atmosphere. So this from 4 to 5, the heating here is from, I cannot understand, it is probably 6. So 6 to something. So this total thing is the heating. So you see these two lines are not perfectly matching. So one can think of the entropy scale of temperature scale of both the cycle could be similar, but the entropy scale could be different. Otherwise, this should extend from here to here. Okay, so probably the entropy scale is different. So we have to understand that this is some sort of a schematic diagram. From here, the heat is coming and going to the Rankine cycle. Okay. So we have got a Brayton cycle, we have got a Rankine cycle, and they are combined with some unique equipment, which I have already talked about, that is called HRSG, heat recovery steam generator, which is nothing but a special kind of heat exchanger, but it serves all the purposes of a boiler. So let us very quickly look into the Brayton cycle. This I have given for the sake of completeness, because you should have some sort of a class note. So this is the simplest Brayton cycle, and this is the PV and TS diagram. So here, actually, we have got what kind of processes? We have got adiabatic or reversible adiabatic compression process in the compressor. Then we can have constant temperature heat addition in the, constant pressure heat addition in the combustion chamber. Then again, we have got reversible adiabatic expansion. and constant pressure heat rejection. So similarly, that is shown in the TS diagram. Only here I have shown another line that if we go for higher pressure, what will happen? So the cycle will become like this. These are for two different pressure level or two different pressure ratio. Then the working fluid, if we think of air standard cycle, the working fluid is air which behaves as an ideal gas. The temperature rise that brought about by combustion is accomplished by heat transfer. So these are all air standard cycle. Forget about it. You have learned this thing earlier. So efficiency is given by this one. 1 minus 1 by P2 or RP. This is the pressure ratio. High pressure by low pressure. K1, K minus 1 by K. K or gamma is the ratio of specific heats. Okay. So this is also known. So you see, ideally, we have neglected all the losses, etc., and simple cycle we have, basic Brayton cycle we have shown. So ideally, it depends on two things. One is your pressure ratio, and another is your gamma. Okay. So efficiency can be increased by increasing these two. Now, what are the limitations? Can anybody discuss that? Okay, if efficiency can be increased either by increasing RP or by increasing gamma, then what are the limitations? Hello? What are the limitations?
So RP will have like the component limitations, material integrity, etc. Those issues will be there with RP, and gamma will depend on the availability of the working fluid, etc.
Okay, but RP has got another limitation. It is a compressible fluid. More we increase the RP, more it becomes difficult to compress the gas. Other than material limitations, that limitation is very much there. You see, in a boiler, almost from below atmospheric pressure to we can go to supercritical pressure. But in case of gas turbine, our pressure ratios are close to 8, 10, etc. We do not go beyond that. Why? Because gas is a compressible fluid. More we compress the gas, more it becomes difficult to compress. What is that? That more it becomes difficult to compress means we have to give more and more work. This I have explained earlier also. In a gas turbine power plant, compressor, sometimes it takes 50%, 60% of the work done by the turbine. Okay, so we cannot neglect that. And more we increase the pressure, more is this, work requirement by the compressor. Then, of course, material limitations are there. And exactly correct thing you have told regarding, okay, I will come to the gas K value or gamma value later on. So what we do, if you remember, that we go for intercooling. So I have shown the basic cycle, but in between, if we do intercooling, the requirement of work that reduces. But compression work we need, that reduces. So many of these stationary gas turbine power plant will have it. Okay. Generally for aircraft, etc., it will not be there because we want to reduce the weight. But stationary gas turbine power plant, we should have it. Okay, and regarding this one, value of K or gamma, you have very correctly told that it depends on the available fluid. That's why the thing I have discussed, that is a good option. That means that if we have nuclear reactor and helium as the fluid, what is the value of gamma for air? It is 1.4. Obviously, when the gamma for practical cycle will be different for the compressor, it is air, and the turbine. For the turbine, it will be the product of combustion. So gamma value will be even lower. But for helium, the gamma value is 1.66. So if we have a cycle with helium, gas turbine cycle, helium, so it is obviously will give us more efficiency. All right. So this is the basic cycle. Just very cursorily, let us discuss what are the improvement we do for basic Brayton cycle. Anybody please tell me what are the improvement we suggest for basic Brayton cycle? You do not remember? Hello?
Already intercooling can be done like.
Already I have told one.
Yeah, so
intercooling I have already told. And then another thing which one can do, the exhaust gas is coming at a high temperature. So with this exhaust gas, whatever air is coming, compressed air is coming, that can be heated before sending it to the combustion chamber. So this is called regenerative heating, regeneration or regenerative heating, because from the same cycle we are using this heat. Okay, and then the expansion can also be done in 2 stages or 3 stages. That means all the fuel we will not burn together. We will burn some amount of fuel. The gas will expand to some extent. Again, some amount of fuel will be burned. Again, the gas will expand. And again, some fuel will be burned. Again, the gas will expand. Now, why do, this kind of things gives us good efficiency. Whether intercooling or this multi-stage expansion. Why it is giving good efficiency? Because when we do this, we are going for either, isentropic, sorry, not isentropic, isothermal compression and isothermal expansion. Isothermal compression and isothermal expansion. Isothermal compression needs less amount of energy, and isothermal expansion produce more amount of work. So that is one thing. And another thing, you just brush it up. If we go for n number of steps, both in compression and expansion, then the cycle ultimately gets converted or goes very close to Carnot cycle. This is a Carnotization of the cycle. Okay, so please check your earlier class. So I think my time is almost over. I stop over here and then we take up and discuss some problem in the next class, which is at 5 o'clock today. All right. Thank you.
So there is a small doubt.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bolo.
Like you said about Carnotization, right? But here the heat addition is isobaric, no? In Carnot cycle, the heat addition should be isothermal.
And then what will happen? What is happening? You see, we are initially when the compression process is reversible adiabatic, we are not extracting any heat from there. But intercooling, if we have added, then what will happen? I will extract certain amount of heat. That process will not remain adiabatic. From 1 to 2, this compression process will not remain adiabatic. Some amount of heat rejection is there. Similarly, some amount of heat addition is there when the expansion is taking place from 3 to 4. And then 2 to 3 and 1 to 4, there will be regeneration. Internal heat addition and internal heat rejection.
So that cycle has a different name, right?
No, that cycle doesn't have a different name. We cannot get that cycle. We can discuss only that cycle in textbook, but conceptually it is good.
Like
That is a cycle only. But ultimately, if you do infinite of this one, this becomes a Carnot cycle.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, but in like, sir, second year thermodynamics, like that cycle is there, no? Like this isobaric regeneration and then the cycle that
you are talking about Eric cycle and Stirling cycle. Yes, those kind of things are there, but those are with different kind of equipment, not with gas turbine.
Yes,
so
sir.
Stirling cycle is there and Ericsson cycle is there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We will meet again.